It was Sunday morning when a submarine captain found one of his sailors lying unconscious on his bunk. Someone had hit him on the head. It could only be another crew member. The captain had 3 suspects: Mateo, David, and Owen. He questioned them, and that's what they said. Mateo: "I couldn't do it. I was checking the equipment in the machinery compartment." David: "When it happened, I was washing dishes left after dinner." Owen: "At that moment, I was busy posting a new video on TikTok." Who was lying? It was Owen. People can't use the internet for personal purposes on submarines. Leo studied art in college and rented an apartment together with his friend Andrew. Leo had bad eyesight and was wearing his glasses at all times. One day, Andrew didn't notice Leo's glasses and accidentally sat on them. They were beyond repair. Leo was so furious he shouted at his friend, and Andrew ran away. Leo called his girlfriend and asked her to give him a lift to the optician. He couldn't drive without his glasses. They were turning onto the main road when they spotted Andrew. He was lying in the bushes, unmoving. Leo immediately called the police and ambulance. Andrew was taken to a hospital, and a police officer started to question the witnesses. Leo told him, "My girlfriend was behind the wheel when I spotted Andrew. We immediately stopped and called you. We didn't see anything suspicious." The police officer arrested Leo. Why? With such poor eyesight and without glasses, how could he notice Andrew lying in the bushes? Lily called the police. She found her neighbor, a famous artist, on the floor of his apartment. The unconscious man was quickly rushed to a hospital. The police had 3 suspects. Lily said, "I live next door. I heard some shouting and loud bangs. I went to check on what was going on and found him on the floor." Zachary told the police the artist was his friend. "We agreed to meet at the restaurant, and I came to give him a lift." And Cooper said, "I ordered a painting from him, but when I came to pick it up, I saw the police." Who's guilty? It's Zachary. If they agreed to meet at the restaurant, why did he come to the artist's apartment? You wake up locked in a room with no windows and just one automatic door. Above the door, there's a large screen. Suddenly, it turns on. You hear a voice. It sounds muffled. "Crack this riddle and you're free to go. If not, the room will be filled with toxic gas in 5 minutes." After that, you see the riddle. What could it mean? Hopefully, you'll realize in time that it means sitting on top of the world. Look at these mirrors and say which one is magical. It's the one the girl in the middle is holding. Apparently, it helped her get rid of her mole. A businessman's about to go through a security check at the airport when he realizes someone's taken his luggage. Airport security officers have 3 suspects. Anna says she doesn't need someone's old bag. She has her own, thank you very much. Mike answers he's a light traveler and doesn't have luggage. He keeps everything in his backpack. James says he's been in a car accident recently. His arm's broken and he has a sprained ankle. He can hardly carry anything. In no time, the security officers arrest the thief. Can you figure out who it is? It's Anna. Nobody told her the bag was old. Several police officers are following a criminal. He hid in a random house. When the officers entered the building, they saw a costume party was going on, and the criminal pretended to be one of the guests. The police looked at the people and soon figured out who the criminal was. How did they understand it? It's the man in the black cape. Unlike other partygoers, he seemed to throw on everything he had at hand: Iron Man's helmet, Batman's cape, and Hulk's pants. Two young women disappeared one by one in a small town. The police found an envelope with a strange code in the first girl's apartment. In the second woman's house, they discovered another envelope, this time with a weird table. It was empty, but several squares were darker than the rest. The detective suspects the girl who will vanish next might be Madeline, Melanie, or Ariana. Can you figure out which one it'll be? After studying the code and the table, the detective realized it would be Madeline. One day, before a popular blogger conference, the security of the building where it was going to take place got a strange message. One of the bloggers is going to be kidnapped tomorrow. It'll either be Monica or Leslie. It was too late to cancel the whole thing. That's why the security officers decided to keep a close eye on the girls. During the event, the girls weren't talking to anyone suspicious. Everything and everyone looked perfectly normal. But suddenly, it became clear who was plotting against one of the girls. Can you figure it out? It was Monica. Look at that rope in her bag. She was going to get rid of her competitor. Aaron was preparing for his test for ages. He was sure his answers were correct and he'd get an A. But several days later, the teacher told the guy he wanted to talk to him. It turned out Aaron had made a tiny mistake and the professor couldn't give him the highest mark. But, the teacher said, if you manage to solve one riddle, I'll give you an A. Aaron wanted to have a good mark. Of course, he agreed. That's what his teacher showed him. After thinking for several minutes, Aaron answered, and it was correct. What did he say? In between jobs. Maria was walking home from work when she heard screaming. It was coming from the house she was passing by. The girl immediately ran in to help. She followed the voice, and it brought her to the basement. As soon as she walked in, the door slammed shut. Suddenly, 3 portals opened in front of her, but only one of them led to safety. The first portal was filled with giant poisonous snakes. In the second portal, there was a huge suspended rock. It would crash down the moment someone stepped in. In the third portal, 5 hungry crocodiles were waiting for Maria. Luckily, the girl chose the safe portal and managed to escape. Which portal was it? She picked the second one. Maria threw her shoes inside, waited for the massive stone to drop, and then walked away. 2 men were playing chess. They'd already played 5 games, and each man had won 3 of them. How is it possible? The men were playing with different opponents, not with each other. Sarah and Liam had a son named Oliver. On Saturday, the couple went out for dinner and left Oliver at home. When they returned, the boy was nowhere to be found. The anxious parents called the police. A detective arrived and questioned everyone in the house. The babysitter said she'd been packing Oliver's school bag for the next day. The maid said she'd spent the whole evening cleaning the kitchen. And the cook said he had been preparing food for the next day. He was listening to music and didn't hear anything. The police immediately knew who was lying. And what about you? It was the babysitter. Children don't go to school on Sundays, so Oliver didn't need his school bag to be packed.
Look at this image. What's wrong here? These guys seem to be playing tennis, but they're using a tiny football. Now how about these people? One of them is from the future. Can you figure out who it is? Be very attentive. Right, it's this guy. He's got a smartphone in his pocket. This looks like a regular picnic in the park, but one of these people is a time traveler. Who is it? It's the guy with a USB port in his arm. A sailor has a piece of fabric that is 16 feet long. He cuts 2 feet of this fabric per day. How many days will he need to cut the whole cloth? Your first answer might have been 8 days, but in fact, the sailor will only need 7 days. The last remaining piece of fabric will be 2 feet long, and the sailor won't need to cut it. Adam's car has broken down right in the middle of a deserted forest road. But the worst thing? It's winter. Snowdrifts are huge, and the wind is freezing cold. Adam has to get to the nearest town, and fast. But if he follows the first path, he'll have to deal with hungry wolves. The second one goes through an area inhabited by bears. And if he takes the third road, he'll have to cross a river covered with thin ice. Which is the safest way? Adam should sneak through the bear's territory. These animals sleep in winter. Look at this picture. Which cage, in your opinion, is the safest? It's the last one. Even though a scorpion sting is painful, it's rarely life-threatening. The next tricky brain teaser for you. Can you figure out who has stolen her computer? It's definitely the girl on the right. Look at the strange shape her hoodie has taken. One of these girls is a wanted criminal. But which one? It's the one with dark hair. She has the same mole as the girl in the photo. Now there is something terribly wrong in this image. Can you figure out what it is? Look at that snowdrift near the cactus on the right. It's a desert. What is a snowdrift doing there? Look at these people and try to figure out who will divorce soon. Most likely, it will be the couple on the right. Have you noticed that the woman has secretly given a note with her phone number to the bartender? After a natural disaster, there was a blackout in Sam's town. Some criminals used darkness to kidnap the guy for ransom. The building where he was kept had 3 doors. Sam could use one of them to escape. But the first door hid a trap that would crush anyone as soon as they entered. Behind the second door, there were chainsaws that could cut anything into pieces in no time. The flesh-eating acid was bubbling behind the third door. Which door should Sam choose? Chainsaws can't harm the guy because there's no electricity in the town, remember?
Molly invites her best friends over for dinner. Rose, Bianca, Tom, and Stan. Everything goes great. But in the middle of the night, Molly notices that one of her books is missing. This item is very special. Molly hides all her cash in this book, and she has never told anyone about it. Molly questions her friends, but each swears to have nothing to do with the theft. Can you help Molly spot the thief? It's Tom. He's sitting on the stolen book. Detective Tina has received multiple cyber fraud reports this week. People complain that all the money went missing from their bank accounts. Detective Tina heads out to investigate this case. She meets with 3 robbed witnesses and asks them to show her their phones. She expects to find some kind of bug or an app. What do they have in common? All of them have the same app. Bella is visiting India. She leaves her bags in the hotel and goes to explore the local market. Suddenly, a stranger approaches her and offers to buy some gifts. "Madame, I inherited these treasures from my ancestors. They're thousands of years old." Bella gets very excited. She loves rare souvenirs. Bella studies these items carefully and gets furious. "You're a fraud!" How did she know? Take a look at this statue. He's wearing headphones. This golden dish has an engraving, made in 2002, so it can't be thousands of years old either. And now, take a closer look at the necklace. It consists of US 1-cent coins. Back then, no one knew what they looked like. Chelsea is riding a scooter in her favorite park. Suddenly, someone throws an apple at her back and she falls. Chelsea looks around and finds 3 suspects. She decides to question them. Glenda says, "I was just feeding this cute little squirrel and taking pictures." Brittany says, "I just sunbathed on the grass and read a book. I didn't even look your way." And Sergey says, "I filmed a podcast for my followers, so I didn't look around. Maybe the apple just fell from this tree by accident." One of them is guilty. Can you guess who? Chelsea got hit by a red apple with a yellow price tag. But the apple tree, mentioned by Sergey, only has green apples. Meanwhile, Brittany has a bunch of red apples in her bag, and they have similar yellow tags. Uh-oh, busted. Will goes to the restaurant with his friends, Mike, Crystal, and Alex. He orders his favorite cheesecake. He grabs and eats 1 strawberry from the top of the cake and then remembers, "Oh no, I didn't wash my hands. Can you guys please look after my dessert?" After a while, he returns and finds out that his plate is missing. Will questions his friends. Mike says, "Sorry, I received an urgent call from work and went outside." Crystal said, "Your cake looks so delicious that I ordered my own. I didn't see what happened because I also went to wash my hands." And Alex says, "Sorry, I left the table to get this lady's number. I think she's my soulmate." Who took Will's cake? Take a look at Crystal's plate. The very same strawberry that Will took from his cake is missing. So it's probably his dessert and Crystal is a liar. Someone drew a pentagram on the floor in the principal's office. Can you guess who tried to curse him? It's the janitor. There's a paint stain on his uniform, and similar symbols can be found on his cap.
There was an incident in a secret laboratory. One of the scientists released a substance that turned people into vampires. Detective Reed arrived at the scene to interview 3 witnesses. The first scientist, Michael, said, "I stopped by the lab this morning to pick up some notes. The machines were working just fine, and I didn't see anyone. I took the papers and left." The second scientist, Lindsay, said, "I closed the lab at night. One of the PCs was faulty, but I was very tired and decided to leave it till the morning. Unfortunately, I overslept." And the third scientist, Jennifer, said, "I got up early and went to the lab to check the devices. No one seems to have entered the room. I fixed one of the computers and left." Which one of them was lying? Michael is lying. One of the computers was actually faulty, and Jennifer spent the whole morning fixing it. If Michael had walked into the lab, he would have known about it, or Jennifer would have noticed him. So he must have entered the lab after the others had already left. But why would someone release such a dangerous substance? Michael didn't want to confess, so Detective Reed decided to investigate the crime scene to find out who was behind this. Take a look at this picture. Is there anything suspicious? It looks like Michael dropped an ID card. And look, it doesn't belong to him. The name on the card is George Wilson. Let's ask him about the incident. Detective Reed went to Mr. Wilson's office to ask him about the incident.
"Oh yeah, I gave my pass to Michael," Mr. Wilson said. "But that's only because I had left something in the lab. My glasses. I didn't have time, so I asked Michael to pick them up."
Well, that's not a very clever excuse, but how can you prove the man is lying? There's an open glasses case on the table, and the glasses are inside. But Mr. Wilson, didn't you say that you left them in the lab?
"Oh, did I say my glasses? Sorry, I meant my papers. I made this mistake because I asked my secretary Shirley to look for my glasses yesterday."
Find something to prove Mr. Wilson is lying. There's a calendar on Shirley's desk. Yesterday was her day off. It's marked red. Mr. Wilson is lying. Mr. Wilson was arrested, but people have already begun to turn into vampires. Can you guess who's actually a vampire? The woman on the right. She's putting on her makeup, but do you see? She isn't reflected in the mirror. Meanwhile, those who haven't turned into vampires gather everything they might need to survive. Which of these people is more likely to stay alive? All these supplies won't protect the guy on the right from vampires. As for the girl on the left, she's stocked up on what she can to defeat the vampires. She has a higher chance of survival. Let's check out the subway. There are two women here. Which of them is not pregnant? The girl on the left is not pregnant. Look, her belly is of a very strange shape. That's because she has hidden her survival supplies under her clothes. Vampires decided to throw a party. Who among those present is actually an undercover human? The guy on the left is a human. He's wearing makeup and false teeth. Nikki is also trying to survive. She packs her things and decided to move to a neighboring town. But suddenly, a vampire charged at her car. He damages the vehicle and takes away some supplies. Fortunately, he doesn't manage to bite Nikki. She escapes. Nikki has to stay home. The next day, a young man knocks on her door and asks for help. Is it okay to let him in? Nope. He has the same scar on his cheek like the vampire from the day before. Nikki continues to hide at home. One day, some girl starts knocking on her back door. "Please help! A pack of vampires is chasing me!" Nikki opens the door. The girl is out of breath, but she manages to say, "They're almost here. Can I come in?" Is it safe to let her in? No! This girl is a vampire. Anyone in this situation would immediately run inside the house, but vampires can't come in without an invitation. Nikki was checking her house and suddenly noticed that there was someone in the attic. She approached the shadows. It was a father and daughter. "Please don't kick us out." "Sorry, we snuck in without permission. We've been trying to hide from the vampires," the father said. "Is it safe to let them stay?" Yes, firstly, they're sitting in the sun, but their skin seems to be okay. Secondly, they managed to enter the house without an invitation. That means they're humans. Nikki let them stay. Let's take a little break. Time for some quick riddles. Think fast. A vampire lived in a one-story black cottage. He had a black cat, a black fish, a black computer, a black armchair, a black desk, and a black phone. Everything was black. What color was the staircase? There was no staircase in that house because it was a one-story cottage. 3 vampires are walking fast. The first vampire says, "2 other vampires are walking behind me." The second one says,
One vampire is walking behind me, and one is walking in front of me.
and the third one says, "2 vampires are walking in front of me, and 2 are walking behind me." How is that possible? These vampires are walking in circles. Humans, vampires, and werewolves gathered in one mansion. There are as many werewolves as there are vampires. There are as many vampires as there are humans. How many creatures are there if 3 of them are werewolves? There are 9 creatures in the mansion, 3 werewolves, 3 vampires, and 3 humans. Now let's go back to Nikki and her adventures. Nikki, Peter, and his daughter Becky decided to go to another town together. It takes 2 days to get there. They drove all day until night fell. Now they have 3 options. First, they can continue driving until the morning, despite the fact that they may meet a lot of vampires along the way. Second, they can spend the night in the nearest cave with bats. And third, they can sleep in the car. Which option would be the safest for them? Sleeping in the car is a bad idea. Vampires can sneak up on them in the middle of the night. A night in a cave is also a bad option. Vampires can hide among these bats. The safest option is to keep driving. Although they'll probably meet vampires, they have a chance to survive if they drive faster. They drove really fast and managed to reach the city by the morning. But when they got out of the car, they discovered they were surrounded by vampires. To escape, they need to choose one of 3 roads. On the first road, there's a pack of vampires. They're coming straight at the guys. There are wild hogs on the second road. The third road leads through a dark alley with hundreds of bats. Which of these 3 ways is the safest? The second way is the best option because the sun illuminates it, so vampires can't follow Nikki and her new friends. Plus, these dogs don't look too unfriendly. The guys reached 3 stores. Now they need to decide which of the stores is safe to enter. Nikki, Peter, and Becky look through the windows to see what's inside. The first store is empty, but it seems to be full of traps. The second store is full of survivors, but they look dangerous. And the third store seems empty as well, but it's completely dark there, and you can't see anything except for dozens of bats. Where should Nikki lead her friends? The first store is the safest. If Nikki, Peter, and Becky notice these traps, then the chances are high they'll be able to avoid them. It's worth a try. There's a man in the city who's trying to survive by hiding among vampires. Nikki spent a week photographing vampires to figure out who he was. Will you be able to see who is actually human in these photos? You can see this man has all 4 photos. In one of the photos, he's eating garlic bread, and in this one, his leg is exposed to the sun. He's only pretending to be a vampire. Nikki and the others decided to invite this man to join their group. The man was delighted and said that his name was Douglas. He was a journalist looking for safe places for people. He suggested creating a password that only humans could figure out. They came up with this one: HAWUH. Can you guess why? If you look at the reflection of this word in the mirror, you will see huan, or HUWAN. Flip the letter W and you get the word human. But only those who get reflected in the mirror will be able to solve this puzzle. Nikki and her friends settle down in this town. Can you guess which of these houses belongs to Nikki, in which Peter and Becky live, and in which Douglas has chosen? House number 1 belongs to Peter and Becky. There are 2 bicycles next to it. House number 2 belongs to the journalist. Do you see his equipment? And the remaining house, house number 3, belongs to Nikki. Finally, Cherry finds the village. This place is magical. Many amazing creatures live here. Suddenly, a half hippo approaches Cherry and yells,
"Please help me. One of these guys had stolen my clothes."
Can you guess who? Take a look at the dog's badge. It says hippo. So, it was the dog who stole his shirt. Cherry meets the local farmer, Timothy. He used to keep chickens in another country. Things were going well and he made good money. But then he bought a big farm in this village and moved there. Soon, Timothy got to know that floods are very frequent in this area. But he didn't get upset and decided to breed ducks instead of chickens. Why? Ducks can swim, so floods aren't so dangerous for them. Timothy invites Cherry over for dinner at home. But unfortunately, Cherry's ex-boyfriend Drake had already found them. He captures Timothy and Cherry at the farmer's house. Suddenly, the phone rings. Drake allows Timothy to take the phone, but he can't reveal the situation. Otherwise, Drake will use his magic wand to turn them into snakes. So Timothy replies,
Hey Mom, how can I help you? I'm home and about to go to bed. If it's not an emergency, can I call you later? I'm really sleepy.
30 minutes later, the police arrive, confiscate the magic wand, and rescue the guys. How did Timothy ask for help? He held the mute button saying everything except the words help, home, emergency, and call. The detective gives Drake a chance to get freedom. He can pass through one of these 3 doors. Jungles full of dangerous animals are hiding behind the first door. Behind the second door, there's a tank with ice water that is impossible to stand in for even a minute. And there's a giant fire-breathing dino behind the third door. Which door is more or less safe? Drake should pick the third door. Dinos don't breathe fire, and they went extinct millions of years ago. Drake returns to his castle and discovers that someone had broken all the bottles with his precious potions in his lab. Drake gets furious and interrogates his 3 goblin servants. Willie says,
I was cleaning the castle all day long. I didn't even enter your lab today.
Tilly says,
I was picking roses in the garden in the morning. Then I entered your lab to bring rose petals for your potions. Everything was fine.
And Billy says,
I was cooking dinner in the kitchen and then I went to the bathroom to take a quick shower.
Who's lying? Tilly, he didn't pick the roses. They're still in the garden. Meanwhile, Timothy drives Cherry home. They stop to buy something on the way. Can you guess what exactly by just looking at this image? Then Timothy takes 2 pictures of Cherry. Can you find 10 differences between them? Here they are. Someone robbed Cherry's house when she was on a picnic on the 4th of July. The detective finds 4 suspects and questions them about what they were doing that day. Bobby, the fireman, says, "I was on duty the day before. I was very tired, so I went sleeping all day long." Nick is a student. He says, "I was celebrating Independence Day with my family." Rick, the manager, says,
It was a holiday and I was playing games with my roommates. Then we watched TV all night.
and Kyle, the postman, says, "I was at the post office all day. All my colleagues saw me." The detective identifies the robber immediately. What about you? It was Kyle. He couldn't work at a post office on the 4th of July. It's a public holiday. Cherry receives her first salary and hides the cash in her closet. Cherry's 3 roommates are not at home at this time, so she just leaves the money and goes to the gym right away. After a while, Cherry returns home and discovers that her money had been stolen from the closet. She starts looking all over the room, but finds no clues. Suddenly, her 3 roommates enter the room. Cherry asks each of them, "Has anyone stolen my money?" Bella replies, "I was in college all day. I just got home from lunch and I didn't enter this room." Anna says, "I came home for lunch as well, but after Bella. I opened the closet door to look for some documents, but there was no money inside." And Megan says, "I had no idea that you were hiding cash in the closet. I just returned from work. You should talk to the security guard." Who's the thief? Bella must have concluded that if Cherry is searching this room, money should have been stolen only from here, so she doesn't sound suspicious. But Anna said that she had searched the closet and found no money. Meanwhile, Cherry didn't mention the closet in the first place. Therefore, Anna is the thief. Liza was a millionaire's daughter. She was fed up with her father trying to control her life, so she decided to run away from home. She took some money and the most discreet car she could find in the garage and left. The girl knew her father would send his people to bring her back. That's why she never stayed in one hotel for more than one night. One day, she found herself in a small town. It was getting dark, and she had no choice but to stop at the first hotel she saw. The receptionist said her room number was 710 and offered to show her where it was. Liza immediately grabbed her bag, ran out of the hotel, jumped in the car, and sped away. Why? The first digit of a hotel room number usually means the floor it's on. Room 710 is supposed to be on the 7th floor. But the hotel has only 2 floors. This must be a trap. A tourist who didn't speak English came up to the ticket counter at a New York subway station. One ticket cost 50 cents, and the man handed the ticketing clerk $1. The woman gave the tourist 2 tickets without even asking how many he needed. How did she know? The tourist gave her 4 quarters, and she immediately realized that if he needed just 1 ticket, he would have just given her 2 quarters. Ice melts when you heat it, but if you heat me, I'll become solid. Can you figure out what I am? I'm an egg. I'm weightless, but you can see me. And if you put me in a water bottle, it will become much lighter. What am I? Right you are. I'm a hole. After having had a fight with a powerful wizard, Louisa found herself trapped in a medieval castle, far away from civilization. She couldn't escape. Jumping out of the window was out of the question because it was too high above the ground. And the only tree growing next to that window wasn't sturdy enough for the girl to use it to climb down. At the same time, in the room where Louisa was locked, there were 3 doors. One of them could lead the girl to freedom, but behind the first door, a fire was raging. The second door held back hundreds of venomous snakes. And behind the third door, there was a maze filled with animal traps. Which door should Louisa choose to escape? Louisa should break off a tree branch, turn it into a torch by lighting it in the first room, and then going through the maze. It won't be dark anymore, and the girl will easily avoid the traps. Now, your task is to crack a few rebus puzzles. Be very attentive and try to think outside the box. What does this mean? Right, that's Big Sister. How about this rebus puzzle? The correct answer is right between the eyes. Look at this one. That's good afternoon. What can you fill if your hands are empty? Well, this is confusing. How can I fill anything if there's nothing in my hands? You'll probably be able to figure it out. And the correct answer is gloves, or mittens if that's what you prefer. Mr. Wilson's company had some financial problems. One day, the man called the police. He said someone had broken into his office.
They stole my safe with all the money I had.
The police officers who came to investigate this case asked the man why he was so sure that there had been several thieves.
Well, my safe was too heavy for one person to carry.
The police instantly realized Mr. Wilson was lying. How? If the safe had been indeed so heavy, it would have left some dents on the carpet, but the floor covering is perfectly smooth. Detective Martin was choosing a diamond ring for his fiancée when a man in a black mask ran into the jewelry store. He made all the visitors lie on the floor and took the most expensive jewelry and money. After that, Detective Martin saw the man get on a red motorbike and speed away. The detective jumped into his car and set off on a chase. Soon, he came to a crossroads. Where should he go now? Suddenly, Martin saw a car coming from the opposite direction. He asked the driver if he'd seen the red bike.
No, I've only seen a silver convertible.
Then, the detective saw a gray car approach from the left. The woman inside said she hadn't seen the red bike, but she had seen a yellow bike and a group of cyclists. And the man who appeared from the right told Detective Martin he'd only noticed a large blue truck. Where is the robber?
Yeah.
The motorbike can only be inside the blue truck.
A pop group is traveling by high-speed train. They're going to a big concert in another country. Everything is going great, but suddenly the lights go out. Someone's moving around in the dark, and everyone hears a woman screaming. Finally, the lights turn on again, but one of the singers, Kelly, is missing. The local conductor finds her phone on the floor and questions the witnesses. Jill says, "I was at the other end of the car, and then it got so dark. I don't know what happened." Sam says, Kelly was next to me. We talked, and then she disappeared. And Paul says, I felt sick, so I sat down and closed my eyes. I heard something, but I didn't see anything. Who's lying? Jill. She said she was at the other end of the car. Then why is her hair clip lying at the crime scene? Can you find 10 differences between these two pictures? Ready to see the answers? Here they are. What about these cute little plants? Can you see 10 differences between the two pictures? Time is up. I'll bet you failed to spot all 10. Here they are. What about these two images? Can you find 10 differences? Let's take a look at the answer. The police have long tracked Jake. They suspect him to be involved in diamond smuggling, but they don't have any evidence. They decide to thoroughly check his luggage. Jake comes to the airport with a small briefcase. What's suspicious about it? He uses an electric razor. Why does he need any shaving cream? The diamonds must be inside the tube. Billy takes his family to a safari park. Can you spot anything odd? Giraffes don't have horns, and lions don't wear glasses. What about this picture? Can you see what's wrong here? This flamingo is wearing fancy shoes, and the elephant has 5 legs. Oh my. Can you find the fastest tap by eye? The second one. Let's make the task a little harder. Here's a new set of taps. Can you guess the fastest? The first one. Which runner will score the goal? Only the third runner can make it to the final point. Here's the route he should choose. Can you find these 5 items in this picture? Here they are. What about this huge pile of things? Can you dig out these 5 items? Ready to see the answer? Over here. Can you find the right piece? Only the second one fits perfectly. Rob's wife decides to prank him and changes a 6-number password on their safe. She leaves a clue so that Rob could crack the code. Can you help him? Take a closer look at the hint. There's an alphabet with 4 marked letters, but we know that the password consists of 6 numbers. To crack the code, we need to count each letter's position in the alphabet. A implies 1, E 5, J 10, and M 13. So the final code is 151013. Tilda is cooking a love potion. She found a recipe in an old spell book. But unfortunately, the last 3 ingredients are encoded. Here's a hint to crack the first one. I can sometimes be a stick, but I don't come from a tree. I can be spread on your toast. I'm a product that's dairy. Any idea what it could be? Butter. Or as they say in Brooklyn, butter. Here's a hint for a second ingredient. I can be small, I can be huge, and very hard to snatch. Carve me out, put in a candle, and light it with a match. What is it? It's a pumpkin. Hey, even I got that one. And now let's try to decode the last ingredient. This thing comes as a small grain, but it's neither rice nor sand. It's often used when cooking, so that food doesn't taste bland. What might it be? The last ingredient for Tilda's love potion is NaCl. Oops, I meant salt. Lily gets an invitation to a wedding party. She comes along and sees 3 weird things right away. Can you spot them too? Take a closer look at the bride. There's a zombie hiding under her skirt. Also, there's planet Earth in the sky instead of the moon. And the clock is going counterclockwise. Well, that's all goofed up. Molly is chilling in her bathroom after a long working day. But can you see anything odd here? She's using a burger instead of a regular sponge. You want fries with that? A dog show competition is taking place in the town. A golden retriever named Toby wins gold. But after the contest, a janitor finds Toby lying unconscious backstage. Detective Tina arrives at the crime scene in 15 minutes. She asks the suspects just one question. What were you doing within the last 15 minutes? Harry, the owner of the rival golden retriever, says, I was brushing my dog. I wanted him to shine like a diamond at the contest. Sandra, the local photographer, says, I was taking pictures of the dogs and their owners. Mr. Frank, the judge, says, I was talking to the reporters. And the janitor, Frank, says, I found Toby and called 911 right away. And then I just left him with his owner and went to clean the toilets. Who's lying? Harry. Why would he need to prepare his dog's hair? The contest is over. Lisa breaks her nail and goes to a beauty salon to fix it. There, she meets 3 manicurists. One of them is an imposter. Can you guess who? It's the third lady. She's using a teaspoon instead of the regular manicure tools. Just another ordinary day in the office. But wait a minute. Can you see anything odd? The lamp doesn't have an electric cord. What about this picture? Anything weird? This businessman is holding an artist's brush. Kyle is a policeman. He enters the local public laundromat after work. There, he sees a crying woman. She yells, "Officer, please help me. Someone stole my clothes. It was my favorite suit." Kyle interrogates 3 suspects among the clients. Lisa says, "I spent the last 30 minutes here, but I always watch movies on my tablet while waiting, so I didn't look around." Ryan says, "I just arrived here to wash my own bed sheets. You can check my bags if you don't believe me." And finally, Nina says, "I had a video call with my boyfriend while I was waiting for my laundry to dry. I didn't have the chance to look around." Who's lying? Lisa. Take a closer look. Her tablet is broken and shut down, so she couldn't have been watching a movie. Can you spot any ghosts in this picture? How about over here? What about this area? Can you spot any ghosts? Hello? Peter is a famous travel blogger. He gets an invitation to visit the fanciest secret beach in the world. But the map has a twist. Can you help Peter choose the right route? Only option B will bring him to the final destination.